There it is! Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Arm Wrestling tonight. This is Hollywood Connelly with the double biceps. It is a
Very
contract a
impressive.
legal requirement every single time we appear on camera. We are appearing on camera right this minute. The man to my left could be to your right, depending on what side of the screen you are looking at. If it is the blank side of whatever it is you're using, turn it around because we are on the other side. It is the co-host, the co-founder, the co-breather of air, the co-wearer of clothes in this very room. It is none other than the King of Sting, the Count of Monte Cristo, the Master of Disaster. It is Thunderlips, the ultimate male. There it is, the Siberian Bull. It is the winner of the Dave Stockbridge of the Year Award and the illustrious award held by the illustrious man with the illustrious beard. It is none other than your friend and mine. It is Dave Stockbridge.
Yes, it is. Hollywood back on. It's always a joy to be with you. And tonight, first in the comments, it is the siren, the singing arm wrestler herself, Rush McGee. So congratulations. You are the winner tonight, and have your special place in the Arm Wrestling Tonight Hall of Fame. Your picture will be erected straight after this podcast finishes airing. So Sharma in the comments, yo, 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 the man with swagger. And we are going very, very well. All the better for seeing Sharma's name pop up in the comments. Sharma, of course, walking away with so many medals. He actually now walks with a stoop. He's got like this after the Titans event, as partnered and paired with the AWE Grand Prix event just recently, and Sharma walked away with two, three, four medals. I almost lost count. So it was absolutely an epic performance. And then went away on a little trip just recently over to Victoria, I believe, and picked up some more to add to his growing collection. So Sharma is certainly one of those rising stars and names to watch. And interestingly as well, he's one of those kind of skinnier guys that you just don't he's like another one of those Hoist Gracie figures like Jacob Tuxworth. He's very unassuming. You look at him, you think, oh, well, surely he can't be an arm wrestler, and then all of a sudden he just, rips your arm off, and before you know it, he's an astonishing young man, developing a very, very good game. And so, Hollywood Connelly, the aftermath, the king of the table, the dust is settled, and there's the jury is out. We don't know whether or not it is just somehow a sabotage effort, or whether it was just an off night. We're not sure. We weren't able to get to the bottom of that one last night, but there has been some feedback and some conversations in the background since, and well, it's the word comes to me that there's something strange that's going on there in Istanbul. All things aren't as they appear, but we'll just leave it at that for the time being. We're here to talk about AWE, and we'll recap one of the classic AWE matches, which you can find out there, and we'll be walking you through that one in just a few moments' time. But Hollywood Connelly, what's captured your imagination in the world of arm wrestling over the last 24 hours?
So many things in the world of arm wrestling. It reminds me of Eddie. What was his name? The guy that used to host the footy show, Eddie something. He comes out. He was like on every single thing on Channel 9 for like
Eddie McGuire.
Eddie McGuire. He'd come out footy show every single week and go, "What a big week it's been in football, no matter what had happened."
What a big week it's been. Yes.
It was the smallest, most quiet, dead week ever. What a big week it's been in football. That was his opening line. He didn't think it through because it's like, you're relying on a big week. What if it wasn't a big week? Because it wasn't a big week all the time, Eddie. I did hear he was doing so many of the jobs at Channel 9. He ended up being Humphrey Bear for a while.
He picked up the gig.
As well as Fat
for
Cat.
international watchers of this, Eddie McGuire is. I think every country has an Eddie McGuire, though, doesn't it? Because is the sports presenter guy that's a commentator that has a variety show that also has a quiz show. That's the type of, every country has that guy. For reasons unbeknownst to everybody else, he's all things to all people. And Eddie McGuire was that man. Yeah, we can draw equivalencies across the Western world, I'm sure. But so it wasn't a big 24 hours for you then in the world of arm wrestling. So nothing really got you terribly excited there, Matt.
I mean, we talked about a few things, but nothing we can discuss on air.
On air, yes. It's some interesting things. The landscape, in the world of real estate at the
Real
in the
estate.
world of
Wow.
in the
What's
world of
happening
arm
there? You
wrestling, it
mixed
just
up
comes
your
out.
thoughts. There's real
Oh
estate
no,
agents
it's
group.
gotten
That's what's
late.
on his
That's what
mind.
it is.
Just wanted to drop it in. It's all about you and your company and your.
That's right. That's all it's ever been about. This is the money laundering operation.
It's frozen to me that no one's picked up on the subliminal real buy from Dave Stockbridge image that flashes in the background.
That's right. So yeah, it's interesting, and we've seen we've seen our friend Ryan Bowen kind of go around the Engen orbit, we'll say, from being on the wrong side of the moon to being back in the commentary seat there at King of the Table, and now a huge advocate and fan of Engen. Every second post mentions how gracious and glorious the great man is, and it's just interesting to see the machinations and the movements of people in and out of favour with Engen and his cohort, and how important that seems to be to the world of arm wrestling right now. We see that with the arm wrestling influencers. We see that with those channels that cover arm wrestling. It's almost all exclusively centered on the East versus West franchise, and I guess it's fair to say that they do have the big names and the big matches at the moment. It is very much the epicenter, but it's also nice to think that there is something going on in the arm wrestling world that is outside of that, and it seems to me there's a little remiss of perhaps the personalities within the arm wrestling space not to maybe shine a little bit of a light on that, especially when they claim to be such big advocates and proponents of the sport in general. There seems to be this conflation between the sport and East versus West, and this concept that these things are so synonymous now that they're indeed one and the same. Whereas there are other things going on in the world of arm wrestling, and we've got World Series arm wrestling. We've got stuff going on in Europe you just never hear about. I was hearing about some fantastic work that's happening over there. So there's certainly other things going on. We just don't hear too much about it these days. So I don't know what's going on. This is relatively new. It seems to be the last 6 or 8 months in particular that the arm wrestling world's gotten very small and contracted and congealed around the East versus West franchise. I wonder what's going on.
I don't know. Right? It is interesting though, but there was. I have found, how we were talking about Eddie McGuire doing all the roles at Channel 9.
Yes.
He did manage to actually live his dream and play a senior game for Collingwood, which not many people really knew that he managed to do. But they did get footage of it here, as you can clearly see.
There you go.
And there he is.
Storming up the middle through the corridor and
straight
bang.
Through for a six. There he is, big head on him, but
there he is. Yeah, well, I like the way he transitioned between middle-aged Eddie McGuire and younger Eddie McGuire. Just in that clip as well. It's certainly a shapeshifter, Eddie McGuire.
Josh McDonald says someone needs to talk to Barker. He's quitting. Well, it's the first
Again?
I've heard of it.
Yeah, but he kind of quit last year as well. It's interesting. I'm sure he'll be back. He floats in and out. He's a young man. He's a very talented young man. He's got a lot of interests. He's also now got himself his first home with Ella there, which is a wonderful thing. And of course, once you take on a mortgage in Australia, there's a whole lot of other responsibilities. It must be very, very difficult for any young couple getting a start in life, especially in Australia at the moment, we called ourselves the lucky country, but having said that, it's going to cost you nearly $1 million to buy your first home, and so yeah, it comes with the same set of pressures, and of course, arm wrestling is an all-consuming passion for many, but not one that's particularly financially rewarding at the moment, and that's a big part of what we've been trying to do at AWE is create that pathway for athletes like Josh, so that we hope that we can attract enough commercial interest in our sport. That's why Matt and I have been such passionate proponents of a rule set that makes the sport so watchable. It's why when you've seen our recent events, we've tried to tailor it so that it is something that might be appealing, or certainly developing into a format that's more appealing for a TV audience, because we understand that the pay-per-view model is failing us, and to keep knocking on that same door and shaking that tin and asking the same people for donations every 3 or 4 weeks, unfortunately it's a shrinking pool of never shrinking pool of people at the moment. And especially as we saw on the weekend, King of the Table has now morphed into more of the same when it comes to East versus West, rather than attracting new eyeballs to the sport, which was one of the great things about King of the Table. It didn't used to take itself so seriously. It was that platform that you could see an interesting match of influencers taking each other on from different sporting genres, coming together and giving arm wrestling a go and bringing their audience along for the journey as well. But that's simply not been wasn't the case on the weekend, and that's a great shame. So so for us, we've that's exactly what we've wanted to do, and I guess we've been hobbled along the way here and there, and but we still continue to fight to try and find a way to make that happen. As we know, there's a lot of other people in that space, in the arm wrestling space, like ourselves around the world, that are seeking to do exactly the same. So it would be absolutely wonderful that, you can imagine, say, Josh Barker, as somebody of his talents and ability and physicality, if he was able to, if he was playing in almost any other sport, he would be playing at some kind of level that he'd be financially remunerated, to the extent that it might be attractive for him to stick it out and to continue to grow. But unfortunately, arm wrestling is just not there. So a little bit like bodybuilding, isn't it, Matt? You've played in that space as well. Bodybuilding is one of those areas where it does absorb a lot of resources to be able to eat and to train and to get all the supplements in. It's a very expensive sport. It's very much a lifestyle. Your whole life revolves around it, much as it can for a lot of our arm wrestling friends, and yet there's just not the money there in order to remunerate people. So that with a lot of bodybuilders, they're having to pick up those casual jobs, or be working in a gym, or do the personal training, rather than just zeroing in and concentrating strictly on being able to be the best bodybuilder they can be. Yeah,
you do it with a lot of amateur sports that are out there, and it is one of those difficult things that somebody could be the best in the world at something and not make a financial gain from it, and not be able to live as an athlete, despite doing potentially more than athletes that are out there that are getting paid. And that usually comes down to the popularity of the sport that they're doing, which in part is how well is that sport being presented to the mainstream audience. Because if people understand what's going on, they can clearly see, and they turn it on, they instantly understand the rules. It's very exciting, it's very easy to watch, and it's easy to get behind a team or an individual and have a favorite, and then follow their career, follow that team's performance throughout the weeks. Those elements seem to really translate well to big audiences, whereas something that can be a nuanced sport, which may have better elements overall than the sports that can be very popular, but they just haven't got that marketing behind, or they haven't been pushed in a way that can be exciting or seen as exciting to a mainstream audience. I think we've got a sport here that everybody can understand within a few seconds, that we have amazing characters in the sport. We've got battles between teams, battles between individuals, super matches, we got history of events, we got events all around the world. Anybody can get into the sport of arm wrestling. It costs nothing to just put your arm on a table. You don't even have to have a table. You could use your kitchen table. You could use the ground. You can grab hold of someone's shoulder and just hold each other and have, you can do that. So in terms of needing any equipment, you don't need anything. You've got your arms, away you go. So the barrier for entry is very low, and I think that we keep pushing in the right directions of finding which way to present this to get it out to the mainstream audience that will embrace it. I think as soon as they see it and they understand what it is, and we can have a rule set that makes the sport very entertaining, very watchable, I think it would really kick off big time. I think that the way that it's being presented currently, it really, really does hamper people from sticking around and staying with the sport. Because and especially having a pay-per-view model, like say you're mildly interested in it and it's like, oh yeah, I've watched a few things on YouTube, and they're like, well, there's a big card on this weekend, that guy that you like, he's competing, and it's like, oh, okay, great, when is it on, how do I watch it? And like, oh, you got to pay $50 or $30, and it's nah, not that level of interest. Like, well, how do I see the match? Oh, you can't see it unless you pay to see it. Oh, I guess I won't see it then.
You're exactly right, because that pay-per-view model 100% precludes most of the world. So India, most of Asia, a lot of the Polynesian countries, South Africa, for instance. We've of course had our South African friends here on the podcast, and have explained that the cost of a flight to get to, say, Australia from South Africa, although that might only be say a couple of $1,000s, that's the equivalent to like 4 months' wages over there. And whereas here it might be a week and a half's wages, like that. So that's the real difference. And so we I guess in Australia and Canada, United States, and New Zealand, we feel like, well, it's only $30, or $40, or $50. Why wouldn't somebody just buy it if they're keen? Well, one, it's for the core demographic of sports fans that you want to be introducing to the sport, who are generally speaking younger. If you look at football or any football code around the world, although you've got the people that fill the stadiums and that are buying the season tickets and that are turning up at the ground and the like, they're older, more mature fans, but they all started off as young boys wanting to see their favorite player, wanting to see their team, their home team, do well, and they all started off as that little boy. And the fear is, by setting such a high financial impost to watch these guys live, that people, the vast majority of the audience in the world that's interested, won't be able to afford that access to the sport. So for that reason, it's not great for the sport long term. It's only kind of serves as the promoter at that point. It makes it really, it's I guess this is, you for instance, Hollywood, you've drawn a lot of parallels between the growth of arm wrestling and UFC over the years. And there was those days, I remember waiting for the UFC to come out on videotape at the local video store, and you'd wait maybe a month after the event had actually happened, and you didn't know what had happened because no one had the internet back then, and so you'd wait for the videotape, and you'd put your name down at the video store, and you'd get it, and you'd hire it, and you'd run home and you'd chuck it in the VCR to see Chemo getting bashed by Hoist Gracie or choked out by Hoist Gracie. And it was like a big thing, and you'd have all your friends around because you'd all chip in to pay for that VHS, that tape, and you'd watch it and you'd rewatch it and you'd go over it, and then there was that time with those tapes stopped being available, and it was the real dark ages for UFC, and of course it was getting banned, and but I guess there's not that fear of arm wrestling getting banned, but I feel like we're in that dark ages where there's a bit of product, there's something out there. But if you really want the new stuff, then you still got to wait, and it might only be a week or so. But such a hunger for the current, and in the age of instant gratification, and where people aren't used to waiting, to make a young fan wait a week or two, they might be able to find out what the result is, but to actually watch their idol, Michael Todd, it might be, for instance, or Coach Ray, it might be whoever it is that's their guy, that they're really vested in. To make them wait a week or so to see their guy perform is, I think, doing the sport damage. And I think this is our equivalency at the moment to those UFC dark ages. We're in that spot where the sport should be popping, it should be exploding, but it's maybe for just a few strategic stumbling blocks, is not quite going in the direction and in the flow that it perhaps deserves to.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, you look at the big sports that are available on mainstream, and here in Australia, I mean, we've got cricket, we've got football, Australian rules football, that's going to dominate the airways on free-to-air television, and they dominate partly because it is free to air, that anybody can flick on the TV and just sit down and watch the game. And that's when I think you're getting a lot of the audience from, is just they might be bored on a Saturday afternoon. They turn on the TV. Oh, what's this football? Okay. Who are these guys? What's the rule set? And away they go, and maybe they become fans. And then, the next day there's another match on and they see that. I think there's 10 matches a week throughout the season. And most of them are available for somebody to watch just either on live TV, or there are some that are on pay TV, but it's, I don't know, more of the obscure teams or whatever. But the same with the cricket. The cricket was on, and it was on all day. It wasn't just on for a match of like an hour and a half. It was on from like 9 a.m. till like 6 p.m, and it used to annoy me because I wanted to watch the cartoons after school. And I'd be like, the bloody cricket's on again. When's this going to end? I'd look up the TV guide, and it would just say cricket, and it would just all day. You're like, damn it. But you've got the ability for people to see that, and you're getting it in people's faces constantly. And at that point, because you can see the promoters of say a pay-per-view style venture saying, well, yes, but we get the majority of our money through people buying our event. But it's like, unless they are big fans of that sport, and you have managed to promote that sport to the mainstream to a level where there are enough people that are interested and consistently getting interested in the sport that will buy your pay-per-view, it's really a dead model. And I can see the pivots that the UFC is making, that boxing is making, where they have so much free content out there now, and it's only the real marquee stuff that you see that is pay-per-view. And immediately following the event, you're seeing highlights, and they're discussing it, and you've got so much that is available that if you didn't pay for it, you still get enough of a feel as to, well, I feel like I watched it, and they've shown some highlights, so I understand what happened, as opposed to something that is almost invisible. And it's like, oh, there's this card coming up with, I don't know, let's say Devin and Leonidas. It's like, oh, great, I like both of those guys, I'd love to see it. How do I see it? Well, you got to pay for it. And it's like, where do I do that? And how do I do that? And there's a credit card and this and that. It's like, I'm not really that keen on how much is it? It's $30, $35. Maybe I'll just wait. And then it's like, you don't see it for 3 weeks until they put it out on YouTube. And it's like, you've forgotten that it happened by then. You already found out who won. And it's like, I can't even watching it.
Well, it's interesting you make those points, with Australian rules football, for instance, and I think any mainstream code, it has this level of social permeance where I attended an event. It was that we were a sponsor of. I didn't really know too many people that I was sitting at the table with, and neither did a lot of these other people. These people were in similar positions as myself. But all of them were into football. And so they had that as a conversation point. So, and it was almost the first point of call. That was, did you see such and such, and you hear about this, and blah blah blah. And so all the talk was about football, which didn't help me terribly because I'm not that much into football, but it was an easy way for strangers to come together. And even just this Sunday at church, there was this lady that had made her way over from the United States, and she had heard about football because the people that she's staying with, all they talk about is football. So they said, "Well, you've got to come along and watch a game." So they, took her along to the game on the weekend and showed her what it was all about. And now she's in the conversation. Now she's caught up. She knows what they're talking about. She's at least on the same page and has an understanding. And it's that type of that's what arm wrestling. Now it's hard to see arm wrestling get into that point straight away, but I do hear those conversations about UFC in a broader context. So when there's a big boxing match, like even with Mike Tyson and Jake Paul, for instance, that was something that people were just normal people would mention it. It would be something that in that week or so leading up to it, it had punctuated the public's consciousness, and
it was free. It was free.
And it was free. That's right. And with the most watched boxing event ever, ever. Absolute massive. 80 million people, I think, they estimated were watching that event. So, I mean, you can say what you like about the result or the fight itself, but what you can't deny is that it was one of those watershed moments for boxing, and that boxing was able to permeate the mainstream consciousness, and we were again talking about boxing, and it would be delightful to see arm wrestling have those moments, and I feel like with some of these matches, because I do get normies, and I know you're the same, Matt, where people will go, you'll mention arm wrestling and go, "Oh, actually, I know about that Devon guy. What's his name? They call Devon Larratt. Yeah. I've seen some stuff of him. Oh, he's strong, isn't he? Well, they'll point out and they say, "Oh, I saw him beat that big that mountain guy. I saw him beat that mountain. Oh, how did he do that? Or they might have seen the schoolboy videos. Oh, I've seen this, this kid, and he was just like beating all these muscle men, and how was he doing that? It's not just all about muscle, is it? Go, well, that little boy's 6'5" and 300 pounds now. But anyway, people do. There is we have that potential to cut through and to get there. We're so close in so many respects, but then the sport. I won't say I will say at the top end of the sport, where that the premier events are occurring right now. The way that the sport is marketed and presented to the world is such that we are not making those breakthroughs, and that will change. That will change. The sport is too good to be held back for too long. So something will change. Something will happen. The Vince McMahon of arm wrestling will emerge. Somebody will work out that this is too good a show to that the world can't ignore it forever, and will work out a way. And that somebody will put all the pieces together, and we'll all of a sudden have what we need as a sport, and that is a highly watchable version of sport that's commercially viable, so athletes can make a full-time job out of it if they so choose. And so people like Josh Barker, which was Josh in this case was the spark of this particular tangent. But so people like Josh Barker don't feel like they've got to make a choice between paying the mortgage and being an arm wrestler, that they can actually do both. And that is our great passion at AWE, is making that happen sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Kyle Davison just jumping in there saying that the local scene is a great indication of the popularity increasing. We are seeing that here all over the place in Australia. Speaking of Vince McMahon, I've been begging for entrance music. Cough, cough. Well, you need a nickname first, Kyle. King Kyle is what you've got currently, and it's got to stay like that until you pick something. He's going through every single wrestler on the roster trying to choose one of their names. You got to pick something that's unique to you, Kyle. You can't be the great American hero. But as you pointed out, all of those sports and those moments and everything that happened with boxing and all the rest of it, it's all coming from free, commercially available stuff that people can watch without any difficulty. They just click the button and there it is, that you don't have to flip around trying to become a subscriber to this and do that, and you got to talk to a troll and get a key and it's the wrong color key and then you've got to go back. He's not there. The real Australian, says Kyle Davidson. When Simon says that Kyle wants entrance music for the rare occasion he comes to the club. That is true. Kiwi Sam says, I think Hollywood's bicep lock could carry the arm wrestling. It's like the Atlas, it's the holding the world. It's just me like holding it like this.
That far away from the pin pad.
Yeah, it's the pin pad's like right there. We were just looking. I'm so close. I'm so gonna. I'm gonna get it this time. No, you're not. You're never gonna get it.
Never.
You never had your car. It's a Fast and the Furious reference for anyone that wasn't born before 19. No, it's in 2000s, I think, for Fast and the Furious. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yes, but making it free, making it available for everyone to see easily, and putting it in people's faces constantly is where you're going to find your audience. And I mean, look at Big Brother. Remember when that show was on, and it was like everybody was talking about that show, and it was a terrible show. And it was because it was on 5 nights a week, or I think maybe at that point it was on 7 nights a week. Every night, 7 o'clock, prime time, Big Brother. It was only half an hour, and it was people in a house doing nothing. But everybody knew what was going on in that. And it's like, just because it was always there, it was free to see, free to watch. It was on Channel 10. Away you go. What's coming up next after Neighbours? Oh, it's Big Brother.
Yeah, and I think this is the issue. Like in say the Western markets and Europe, kind of seeing East versus West as the pinnacle and as the example, and Engen as the center of the arm wrestling world. But let's be real for a second. Who is doing it best in the world? Who has the best production? Who has the best sets? Who has the best lighting? Who has the best governance model? Who is selling franchises to their teams? Who has regional teams? Who has a proper league? Who has free-to-air coverage that's reaching tens of millions of people every single week? Who has managed to do all of that and have it on prime time for free in their market? And I can tell you, it's not Engen Terzi.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Pravin Devas is that man, and he's done it with Pro Punja in the most populous nation in the world now. So India, by all estimations, has more people than China. And so, the reality is that, this is there. It's already being done. The alchemy, the alchemy is being worked out. Somebody has looked at all of the models available, and he's made it regional specific in that he has modeled arm wrestling on the IPL model, which is the Premier League, Indian Premier League of cricket, where celebrities own franchises. And those franchises are regional, so every major city or state they have their representatives. So you get that parochial support from locals who want to get behind their guy, and they have an auction system, so they get to pick the best. And at the moment, it's just the best that's in India. And at some point in time, I'm sure with the success that they're enjoying, that'll be the best from around the world. And then they take the guys and girls and they put them up against each other, and they make sure that both sexes are well represented. They also have a category for disabled athletes as well. And so they're ensuring that there's something for everybody. It doesn't matter where you live in India. It doesn't matter who your favorite celebrity is in India. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who your favorite athlete is in India. The chances are there's going to be something for you on that card. And that's what makes it successful. And so Parvinder Bas and his team and Preeti, they've worked it out already. And on top of that, they've also really got behind the sport at a regional and local level. So they've taken control of the sport in India. They run the Indian Federation. They've got heavily involved in supporting the Asian events as well. And so regionally, they've established a real foothold. And of course, what that means is that they're getting access to the talent that's just outside of their borders as well, and seeing who the rising stars of those various nations are. And then, of course, they've got a talent pool that they can draw upon and add into the mix as their promotion continues to grow. So there is a formula that is already successful in the most populous nation on earth, and we can see that as a shining example of how to make the sport mainstream, because that's exactly what they've done. Or we can, as a arm wrestling community, continue to be a little eclectic bunch of sycophants that get behind one particular person and believe that all-knowing person has the all of the answers to the sport. They are the sport. They're the embodiment of the sport, and so we must follow them through the fire and get on the other side of whatever this is. And that cultish adherence to a losing formula is what is most frustrating for me, because there was nothing world leading about that event that we saw on the weekend. It was a massive disappointment in terms of production values. There was nothing about it that was comparable to a world class event in any other category or genre of sport or entertainment that you will see in 2025. It was a third-rate, third world effort, and it did nothing to progress the sport in the direction that it needs to go in. And what they should have been doing is looking across to India as a bright, shining example of what they should and could be doing instead. And maybe there'd be a whole long further down the path of making sure that people like Josh Barker and their own athletes can just 100% dedicate themselves to the world of arm wrestling.
Absolutely. Well, we're probably the time we should wrap things up. Any final thoughts, Dave Stockbridge?
No.
Anything on Eddie Maguire at all?
No. I mean, I didn't mind Eddie Maguire. I thought he was a safe set of hands. I mean, he's did he ever host Christmas carols?
I think he hosted literally every single show they had on.
I think he did. Yeah. And then Karl Stefanovic he did become the new Eddie Maguire there for a while, didn't he? Before he disgraced himself. But now he's back on telly. Of course, he's back. But yeah, it's I'll be interested to hear who the Karl Stefanovics and Eddie Maguires in the rest of the world are, because we know that they're out there.
Yeah, well, I think free to air is on its way out. So I think it's the video killed the radio star, and I just think the internet killed free to air TV.
Yeah, but I will say that free to air TV is where the money still is, and it's where the conversations remain, and where if arm wrestling was on free to air TV, we'd be in a very different place than what we are right now.
Yes, completely agree. The point being, the future is looking more and more online and handheld devices, but the free-to-air model is still significant in terms of being able to get exposure for sports, especially like arm wrestling.
Yeah. I mean, I think the ideal. I mean, you're quite right. Those streaming platforms and the like, the Netflix deals, because from what I understand. Dana White is currently negotiating the biggest TV deal of all time around UFC, and it involves several broadcasters on different levels, including Netflix and Amazon and all of this. So there's that's definitely the way. That's definitely the way forward. I'd love to see arm wrestling being in that conversation. And if we are going to be successful, we got to realize that it's not arm wrestling is not competing amongst all the promotions competing against each other. Arm wrestling as a sport is competing against all of the other kind of obscure fringe sports plus the mainstream sports, and there's only so much room and attention in the world for sports on the screen, and we're fighting for that. And that's why in my mind it's frustrating when I see the sport presented poorly, because for every event that presents the sport poorly, it's another bunch of eyeballs that we lose into the future.
Absolutely. Completely agree. Well, there you go. Ladies and gentlemen, Arm Wrestling Tonight, episode 68. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will be back. We'll be back probably tomorrow night, I think.
Yeah, it's tomorrow night.
Wednesday night.
Yeah, we will be. Yeah.
It's Wednesday here in Australia. It'll probably be somewhere else.
It'll be Saturday where you were.
Yeah.
Last
Saturday,
week.
3 months ago.
Yeah.
And if you want the lottery numbers, you need to send us $50. We'll send them through you.
Oh, yeah.
All right. No worries. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And do the stalling bit while I find the button. There it is. Aha! There we go.